to hurt us. In fact, the guy who replaced Osama bin Laden said that he pledged that he would kill 1 million U.S. children. That's what he said in a video that was released to the public. Why do you think he said children? Why do you think he said that? And I think it's most likely that they would strike a college campus, because there's so much ground that you can cover, so many weak points. It's a tactical nightmare. So we know how bad it is when a kid snaps, they go in and shoot a few people. It's a terrible tragedy. But try to fathom when it's an organized terror attack, and they've got all the exits barricaded, and they've got heavy armor, and and they expect to die. It's very serious. So when I'm elected, one of the very first things I'm going to do is push hard to lift that ban on academic properties, at least for concealed carry permit holders. Do you support that? In order to do that, I need your support. So if you want to find out more about my campaign, by the way, you can go to nc2014.com. Again, that's nc2014.com. It's rather easy to remember, but I'll say it again. nc2014.com. You can also donate there. But tonight, if some of you could cut some checks, that would be great. We are really in the fight of our life against Josh Stein. As I speak about this very serious threat, as I see these headlines and these videos of ISIS, and let me tell you, I mean, if ISIS got over here, that would be even worse, because those guys are trying to make a name for being the baddest gang on the block. When I see Josh Stein say that Republicans pose a greater threat to North Carolinians than Islamic radicals, it just blows my mind. So, on a positive note, we're going to kick that guy out. This November, the guy's got to go. Are you with me? Fantastic. I'm going to tell you one other thing as well, too, if you don't mind. We got time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good, excellent. You guys want to hear about education a little bit?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let's talk about education. Okay. Again, I really care about women and kids. And I'm against Common Core. Big time. Yeah. Woo, Common Core. Okay. This is Health Today. This is a textbook for high schoolers that is Common Core compliant. Now I'm going to give you the heads up. There are no kids in the room or anything, but I'm just going to mention some of the things that are in it. I'm not going to show you the graphic pictures or whatever. But on the sex ed section of this book, it shows penises in various states of arousal, ejaculation. It shows Hollywood stars and personalities to really make it interesting. They talk about how common it is to have oral sex and how many college students have had oral sex in the past 30 days. 51%, it says. It's very common. It asks questions like, should prostitution be legalized? And it says there are several reasons why it should. One of them is, it's based on antiquated views of sexuality that most Americans don't embrace. And it says, if you want to try some colorful experimentation, you can use ropes or whips. You can use masks. I mean, this is in this book. Sarah couldn't believe it, could you?
I saw it.
I know. That's Sarah Remini, by the way, our grassroots coordinator. I was showing her some of the stuff. It's unfathomable. It's crazy.
What age group?
This is Common Core. What's that?
What age group is that book?
No, this is high school. So this is 15 years old, starting, whatever. This is what Josh Stein is fighting for, my opponent. He's fighting for this type of thing. And if you doubt it, let me tell you what he did fight tooth and nail for. This guy actually won an award from Equality NC for fighting tooth and nail to get same-sex orientation and gender identity curriculum into kindergartens in North Carolina. That's the guy that I'm up against, so you understand. The villain that made me get into this race. Because I've got a 2-year-old daughter, and when I think about this kind of psychological pedophilia going on in our schools on my dime, it makes me get into a race. It makes me get into a fight. And I like to fight.
Good.
Obviously. So if you want to get rid of Common Core, how many of you want to get rid of Common Core? Fantastic. If you want to protect your kids from learning about BDSM and blindfolds and anal sex and having their teachers push this stuff on them, then you need to vote for people like me, because I'm standing against the people that are leading the charge up in Raleigh. This guy's leading the charge. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you guys if you have any questions. And of course, I have to say, the liberation of District 16 is underway.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. I know that there are several candidates who they were just so busy that they weren't able to stay afterward, but I will. I'll be here.
We've obviously, the judge forum ran long. We're running a little long, which we don't like to do. Let's take about 3 questions, then Molotov will be available after the meeting. So
Yeah, and hold on just one second, because Sarah was trying to show me something.
All right, I'm going to start here. I'm going to come back to you.
Here we
I'm gonna
go.
start
You
with
don't mind me
Bill.
just walking around like this, do you? I'm just going to walk around. Okay.
Hey, you're the guest speaker. You can walk anywhere you want to.
Great.
Bill.
Just one question,
Yes.
in interest of being complete disclosure,
Yeah.
how many of those shootings that you alluded to earlier were committed by concealed carry permit people?
Oh, obviously none. Concealed carry permit holders are the most law-abiding. I tell you what, one of the things that Josh Stein and other gun grabbers said was, if we allow an expansion of concealed carry into places that serve alcohol, you guys remember the struggle over this? You guys remember that? Oh my God, people are going to be shooting each other in the face at Chili's. It's going to be Armageddon, Not one shooting. No, everybody's fine at Chili's, enjoying their, Sundays or whatever. So yeah, make sure that you go over to the table if you don't mind. Sign up so you can get with our newsletter if you want to volunteer. And again, Sarah Remini's right over there if you want to hand her a check or anything. Yes?
I have a lot of questions I'd like to ask you, but
Sure.
because you have access to certain information through the people that you train and things,
Right.
my question is really in a city the size of Mosul in Iraq, which is a big city,
Yeah, sure.
and northern Iraq and part of Syria, how does a force that is big enough to take over the entire northern part of a country and another country and a major city and have the army drop its weapons and flee, how does a force that big get pulled together for a surprise attack without anybody, our intelligence or anybody else even knowing it, or did we?
I'll tell you how. Low tech. Our military has become extremely focused on the high tech to the point that it's kind of, there's a saying in the training community: the smarter your phone, the dumber you are. And these terrorists, some of them, for instance, Osama bin Laden, he didn't communicate with any of his troops by any other means than one man who he would speak the message to, and nobody knew who he was. And he would disappear, find this guy, and say, "Wow," and then he leaves. They didn't even do text messages. They didn't nothing.
Yeah.
So that's how. And also, when you think about all of the locals that aid them and give misdirection to the military, so they're running these rabbit trails left and right. It's very difficult. Yeah.
So a force that big, they were able to still pull that off and coordinate an attack to take over an entire, it just blows my mind that,
Yeah.
It's like,
Let's go. One more question. Anybody got one?
Apex in your district?
No, Apex is not. But that wasn't the question, was it?
Would you
Brian.
send force in to save those journalists over there? Would you go try to save those journalists?
Wow. Well, that, honestly, I would need to know more intelligence before I made a statement on that. Honestly, I know that sounds like but I'll tell you this though, if you don't mind. I will say this: there is a very, very high price to pay for inaction if there's anything that can be done constitutionally, because when you allow a journalist to be beheaded, and it's not that he's an American, although that does certainly matter. It's not that he's a journalist because journalists need to stick together or whatever. But remember, it was journalists who exposed the warehouses where ISIS was butchering Christians. It's journalists who discovered all of these atrocities that they're doing over there. And now, because of dear leaders' non-stop golf adventure, these journalists over there are pulling out left and right because they're saying, wow, They're not going to protect us in any way whatsoever. And that is the worst situation, because now ISIS and other groups like them can operate with total impunity and in the darkness. And we won't know where they're coming from next. That's pretty scary.
All right, we're going,
Can we just end on a positive?
Please, please help me, Jody. I'm sorry. I get into my job. You know, I'm just, you know.
Have a drawing.
Will you just take 3 or 4 minutes and tell the group about your time on the streets?
Absolutely, sure. If that's
go ahead.
cool. Are you gonna stand there the whole time, Van?
I'm gonna stand behind.
Oh my God!
I'm packing.
Mom, check your wallet.
I know.
You finish up, just let me know when you're done.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's. Thank you, Jody. So, I was a bad kid. My dad was a great dad, and he kicked me out of the house when I was 17. And I went and lived with friends, and got a job, and I had a car, and everything. But I always felt like I needed to do something to change the world, something to help other people. And I didn't know what that was, but I had heard a lot about poverty in America and homelessness. The poverty epidemic. War on poverty, longest running war in America's history. So I said, okay, I know what I can do. This is kind of radical. I'm kind of a radical guy. I'll spend a month living on the street with the homeless. So I did. I still had a car, a girlfriend, trappings of a normal life, a job. But at night I was sleeping on rooftops and in the woods and under overpasses with the homeless and getting to know them. What I did not expect was that I would get addicted to it. It ended up being an entire year that I spent out there with them. I was really, really interested in their plight. And I learned two major things at the end of that time. Number one, the poverty problem in America is not nearly as extreme as I was led to believe. When I was living on the street, I was just as clean then as I am today. I was just as well fed. I was able to go to businesses and say, hey, are you guys going to throw away any stuff at the end of the evening? Yeah. Do you mind if I swing by and grab? Yeah, sure. There were businesses that were constantly offering free things, offering help. There were church programs left and right. Most of the people that I came across were either just comfortable living this way and they just didn't want to work, or there was a smaller percentage, I imagine it is much higher now, much higher, of people who were dealing with mental illness, many of them veterans, and people who genuinely needed help. And I'm, a little side note, I'm really glad that NCGOP is doing so much to help veterans. That was the one thing. But the second thing I learned was there is a God. I didn't believe that there was a God. But after a year of living on the bottom, I became convinced. I saw several things that were undeniably miraculous. And so I said, you know what? If there's a God, I need to find out who this God is. So I started studying different world religions. And I was a voracious reader. I mean, I was freaking my friends out. They'd be, I was with a bunch of punk rockers and stuff. I was a punk rock kid, And we'd be watching some show, and then I'd say, stop. And I'm writing down the number to get the Book of Mormon mailed to me, And they're like, this guy's crazy. This is nuts, And I mean, I'm that guy that ordered the Book of Mormon. And of course, the missionaries started stalking me after that. So, I was reading Vedic texts. I studied the works of Siddhartha. But the last thing that I came very close to becoming a Hare Krishna devotee of all things. Actually, we were out at Packapalooza talking to students, and the entire time the Hare Krishna guys are over there, I'm not even going to say it because it's bad to say it, but they're over there just boogieing or whatever. And I told Sarah, I was like, I used to hang out with those guys. She's like, yeah, right. And I was like, no, for real. But what happened was I read the Quran, multiple translations of it. The last book that I wanted to read was the Bible, because that was the book of America. That was the book that my father had, who I hated. Last thing I wanted to do was read that book. But I did, because I had to be fair. And I read where Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no man can come to the Father except through me. Now, that was kind of offensive to me. Because at that point I had believed in a very, coexist bumper sticker on your Prius way of living, you know, we're all going to get to heaven, and I'll be like, I hung out with the homeless and I got hit by a car, and they're like, oh, that's so interesting. I detonated in a cafe. Yeah, so funny. We ended up in the same place. It's funny. That's how I thought, kind of mindlessly, and then, but this Jesus, boy, he stands out as a figure in history, doesn't he? Any of you agree with that? Yeah. He stands out. And when he said, no, wait a minute, Molotov, you're wrong. You're thinking it's one way, but I'm saying it's the other. So what I did was I went to all of the people that were trying to get me to join their religious organization. And interesting thing about Jesus, he's the only guy that is near universally accepted as either the greatest teacher or God. The glaring exception, of course, being Judaism. They're really not into Jesus. But I was speaking to my Jewish friends, speaking to my Muslim friends, I was speaking to my Buddhist friends, and I said, let me ask you a question. I came to each of them individually, and I showed them, the first thing I said was, would Jesus ever lie? Oh, no, absolutely, no. I mean, boy, my Muslim friends freaked out. If you don't know, Muslims believe that Jesus was actually more perfect than Muhammad, and that Jesus didn't even die on a cross because God would never allow a perfect person to be crucified. It was actually Judas. It was a trick. Anyway, fooled everybody. So I said, okay, so would Jesus ever lie? He said, no, never. I said, okay. And I showed him this passage where Jesus said, I am the only way. I said, what do you think of that? Every single one of them had the same response, with a little variation here and there. Long pause. Let me speak to my supervisor and get back to you on that, right? Which did not instill confidence in me about their organizations. So I ultimately came to the conclusion, you know what? I'm going to have to make this decision myself. So what I did, I'm a very logical guy. I said, you know what? Would Jesus lie? This is ultimately, in my opinion, the most important question anyone can ever ask in their entire life. Was Jesus lying, or was he telling the truth when he said he was the only way? Because there's really two types. Was he lying or telling the truth? And I said, you know what? Based on the life that he led and the reputation that he holds among world religions, I don't think he would lie. He clearly could have had anything. Could have had all the money, all the power, all the women, whatever. But he died penniless on a cross, between beggars, saying he forgave people. So I said, all right, I'm out in the woods. God, I am a Christian. And nothing happened. I was really hoping something cool would happen. I really was hoping for it. Rainbow, I don't know. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. But you know what I did start doing differently at that point is I started reading the Bible and doing what it said. And guess what? It made me a conservative. Because the Ten Commandments says, just as an example, thou shalt not steal. But what does that mean? When you look at the inverse, it says, thou shalt respect private property. Amen. That's the inverse, isn't it? Right. Life, liberty, property. Because that pursuit of happiness is, I like the Jefferson version. But anyway, so I ended up becoming a conservative because I believed what the Bible taught. And not in some, flimsy, Reverend Barber-esque way. I mean, I actually really dug into what it said, and I said, I need to live my life differently. And there's so much that the Bible says about that. Anyway, I thank you for the opportunity to say that, Judy, but I really just have to say I'm only here by the grace of God. And I only believe the things that I believe because of God's grace. And I'm so humbled that I have the opportunity to be with you here tonight. Thank you.
Did y'all enjoy that?
That was great.
All right. Good. Real quick, I know everybody's, who's here for the first time? Any first-time guests? All right, we know. All right. Welcome. Hope you come back. I know, and good luck, and we'll do what we can to support. Any candidates running for office? Real quick,
You're running, aren't you?
Yep.
I'm ready. Yes, ready.
Yes,
I'm running for the state senate in District 20. 23, the liberation of District 23.
All right.
So it's all of Orange County and Chatham County, and I am the only female Hispanic candidate running for the General Assembly.
And shout your name out for everybody that can't see your
Mary
name tag.
Lopez Carter.
Okay?
I didn't expect to speak, but I love the opportunity. I'm Dave Carter. I ran for the seat that she is currently running for, so the people in that district happen to know the name Carter, and I use the slogan, vote smarter, vote harder. And it's going to work for her this year for sure. I have to correct Molotov on one thing. There are in fact 3 concealed carry handgun instructors in this room right now who are running for office. Because my wife and I are both certified.
What? No, you're not. Hey, I can admit when I'm wrong.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other candidates? And elected officials? Where did AJ go?
Yeah, where is AJ?
Angie, would you like to be the spokesperson for AJ? AJ Dowd, Chairman of the District, is here, and Angie, and they're newlyweds, and we're glad to have you.
Yeah.
With that, let's get over our raffle. Jody.
All right, everybody, if you can get your raffle tickets out, we'll do the white tickets first. Have a little prize. And the winning number is 710668. 710668.
The white ticket,
White
668.
ticket. Anybody?
All right, going once.
It's AJ.
Huh?
Ann hasn't gotten her ticket out.
Going twice.
668.
668.
All right, next one.